Okay, good morning. So we're up to Siman Kuf Nun Ches Sif Gimel. We're working through the halachas in Netilas Yadayim. So says the Machab in Sif Gimel, Im Oichel Pachas Mikazais. So a person wants to have a bit of bread, a very small amount, Pachas Mikazais. Yesh Misha Eimesh Ein Tzarech Netila. That you don't actually need to wash your hands for such a small amount of bread. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Yud, Pachas Mikazais. Why? Tezel Lo Chashiv Yachila. After in Berachas Hamazon, you're not even, the minimum amount to bench is going to be a Kezayis. How much is a Kezayis? It's not a lot of bread. On a large loaf of bread, Moshe writes that it's about a quarter of a big slice, and if it's a very small loaf of bread, it's about half a slice, approximately. So we're not talking about a big amount. So you've got to have at least that amount in order to bench. But if you're having pachas mikazayis, then you don't need Berachas Hamazon, you don't even need to wash, according to this opinion. Then that's indeed how the Taz paskens. V'chein hu das habach, v'chein hiskim hagrov ha'berkiyos v'chein b'shem harashpatz. V'das halechem chamudos v'amogen avrom l'rabba v'oid achronim. The af b'pachas mikazayis dinah b'pachas kabetza. It's got the same din as a pachas mikabetza, as we said in the last sif. V'yitzal yodov v'lo yivarech. You should wash Netilas Yadayim just without a bracha. V'alkein lechatchila nochen lahachme b'zeh. So if a person, for whatever reason, is having a very small amount of bread, he still needs to wash. Lechatchila, he should still wash Netilas Yadayim, but just without a bracha. V'da the shir kazayis the tzorech netila. That amount that we're talking about is even if you have crumbs and you combine them together. If you've got enough crumbs to make a whole kabetza, then you need to make a bracha on the Netilas Yadayim. If you have a bit of bread to take away the sharpness of a drink, you have a whiskey or something, and you need something to take away the sharpness of the drink, but we'll get there. In that situation, if you eat something just to help a pill go down, or to take away the sharpness of a certain food, there you're not eating the bread or the food in order to satiate yourself in the normal way. Therefore, you don't make a brach on it. Mishum dehu tofel ashtir, because it's totally toffel and ikra and toffel. You don't make a brach on the toffel. Yesh oimrim degam netilas yadayim ein tzarech. There are those who day you don't even need to make a netilas yadayim. Afim yesh bo kabetza. V'yesh oimrim tzarech ein el yerabah. So therefore, if you have a bit of bread in order to help take the pill or something like that, then you certainly don't make a bracha. And not only that, there are different opinions whether you need to wash for that bread. Of a pachas mikazayis, and if you have a very small amount of bread, just a small amount to help the pill go down or to take away the sharpness of something, if it's less than kazayis, you certainly you can be makel. But if you have more than a kezayis or a kabetza, then you should just wash your hands, but without a bracha because of this sofik. Okay, now the next sif we're talking about eating something which is tubule b'mashka. This is a halacha which is not very well known to us, but it's best known to us when we think about the mitzvah of karpas. Because karpas, we take the radish or the vegetable, whatever we have, and we dip it in salt water, and we make we wash Netilas Yadayim before karpas. Why do we do that? On Seder night, we sort of know all the chumras, but lemaisa, it's a halacha that used to be applicable when Tum and Tahara was applicable all year round, and it's a halacha that really one should be more strict on it, and we'll see its application today. But the concept is you take a food item and you dip it in a liquid, and we'll discuss which liquids, one of the 7 liquids. Then you need the Netilas Yadayim. The Gan was very strict about this and would even make a bracha. We're not knowing like this, but we'll see the details coming up. Says the Mechaber in Sif Dalet, you eat a food item which is dipped in one of the 7 liquids. Shesimonim, the way to remember it is Yad Shochat Dam. What is that? Yad is Yayin, Dvash. Shochat is Shemen, Cholov and Tal. And Dam is Dam and Mayim. When you don't dry it, even if your hands don't touch the liquid part, you need to wash your hands before eating. Imagine you take an apple and you rinse it in water, then you need to wash your hands without a bracha. You should do Netilas Yadayim without a bracha. Okay, let's see the detail. It says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Yud Aleph. Dovar. So you take a Oichel. What oichel are we talking about? It says in the Mishnah Berurah, Hainu afilu yerek or peris abasa, whatever it is, vegetables, fruit, meat. V'afagav al peris lo tiknu netilas yadayim. Even though Chazal were not misakein netilas yadayim for fruit, only for bread, like we said. However, hasma peris atzman lo nitmu yadayim. That's because if I would just eat an apple, then it's not matama yodayim. Shayodayim shniyasein, because the rule is hands are sheni letuma, ve'ein sheni oisa shlishi b'chulin, and sheni cannot make a shlishi in chulin, in truma and other things, yes, but not in chulin, in regular food. But if you take this food item and you dip it in liquid, there's a special rule in Hilchos Tum and Tahara that liquids make your hands back up to rishon, and they're not just stam sheni. Then tiknu litles adayim, because rishon can make chulin into sheni. Shelo yitamu hamashkin al yodam v'yivtzlach kach gam ha'oichel. Okay. Shetibuloi you've gotten yud beis v'oisen sheshokin peiros ayerek b'mayim and koson. Some people take fruit or vegetables and they soak them in water to clean them. Choshev tibul b'mashka. That is called tibul b'mashka, like what we all do. We wash our fruit and vegetables. V'dava she'in darka l'tavlo aliyos olav mashka, but things which are not normally done, dipped into a liquid, ein tzorach netilas yadayim, they would not need netilas yadayim. The milsa de l'shkichu de l'gozer b'odem, because that's unusual and the Chazal will not go there. Hatovel et spoi b'mashka. If you simply dip your finger into a drink or moitzeit and you suck off the juice, ein tzorach netilas, you don't need to wash your hands. The l'tiknu netilas yadayim l'shtias mashkin uchad l'kamim b'sivov. Good. Be'echod mishiva mashkin. Avashamene mashkin. Other liquids, whatever they may be. Mashkin hanischotim aperis, fruit juice, for example. Einim chashuvin mashkin. They do not qualify as a proper liquid to make it a mashkin, which is tibule b'mashkin. Siv kotin yud gimel. Yudalet dvash. What dvash are we talking about? Dvash dvorim, honey from a bee. V'lo tomorrow, not date honey. Oishal min acher, or other type of honey. Kolswa poiskim, kol ha-mashkin shenikrushu, mashkin which have become solidified, bein alidei bishul, either through cooking, bein alidei tzina, or you freeze it, ad she'ein bo tetech amnas matlat piach, they're not so wet that if they touch your hand can now make something else wet. Lo chashivi mashke, that's not called a mashke. V'das ha-tosfos, shafilu chozru v'nimoichu akach, even if they sort of go back into a liquid form later, zulas yain omayim, v'uadin chelev shenikvel, so too, cholov shenikvel, milk that congeals, k'shechozru v'nimoichu, when it now goes back to liquid form, chashivi mashke, that's called a mashke. Ulefi zemer kachas hamatugim bedvash, you have something dipped, fried in honey. If the honey which is coating it is solid, is sort of solid and dry now, that it's not going to make something else moist, for sure you can eat it without an netilas yadayim. And if the dvash is not solidified, the Taz says that it's called a liquid. Because the lemaisa, this it's there for achila purposes and not for mashka purposes. Therefore, shem oichel olav, it has the status of oichel. If you buy honey and there's still wax there, and you melt it in order to fry something in the honey, it never had a same mashke, because you did it for eating purposes. But if you buy honey which is already sort of melted and it's made into a drink called mead, v'yodua temed, or made dvash, honey water, whatever it is, v'yodua sheim mahatchin kedei lasos mashke, and you know that you melted in order to make this liquid, then then you would need the netilas yadayim, even though you're frying food, because it ultimately is considered a liquid. If you're eating it by way of a fork, and therefore your hands are not actually touching it, that you could be makel not to require netilas yadayim. That's all for mirkachas, for some sort of food item, whatever it is, which is fried in honey. If it's fried in sugar, then you don't need a netilas yadayim to have a mashke, because that's not called tibul b'mashke, it's tibul b'shuka, and that's considered an oichel. Okay, shemen. Shemen is one of the 7 liquids. What type of shemen? Hainu shemen zayis, olive oil. Or mashma desha shmonim, but other oils not. Einem bichlal mashke. cholov, v'uadin mei cholov oy chema kashinimeicha, or butter that's melted, or water like whey, I think, from the milk. That is considered milk as well, and therefore if you dip a fruit in it, then it's considered dova, which is nitpil b'mashka. If however the chema is karush, is congealed, ein tzorech litl yodov, the chema krusha have eichel, because that's considered an eichel. For eichel dova matugin b'chema, if you eat something which is fried in butter, kashilacha al gabo, where it's still moist, tzorech litl yodov, because then it's got a din of a mashka. Ubachaya adam kosov, the davke kshenim chachema b'machvas b'shas hatigun kaidem sheniach ha'eichel. You put the butter in the frying pan and it becomes liquid, and then you start frying something, because then it's got a din of putting an eichel into a mashka. Because v'nasa lo shei mashke b'kodim aval kashinimach achakach. But if you're frying it and then you put the butter or the margarine in afterwards, dafka the butter, kaimelon the mashke haba l'sakin eichel, then it's got a din of eichel, and therefore it's not considered tibul b'mashke. For eichel davar matugim b'shuman b'mei beitzim l'kula amal lo mashke. If it's fried in oil or in fat, or shuman, or mei beitzim, or water liquid from an egg, then that's not considered one of these 7 liquids. Okay, the next one was dam. Kadei naspa. Now, who's going to drink blood? You can't drink blood. It's not allowed. Also lechel dam. For dam dogim v'chagavim le'mikri mashka. And dam dogim and chagavim of locusts and fish are not called mashka. V'ulai demari sha'ich la'machel b'tibel b'dam mipnei refuas pikuach nefesh. Why is this ever applicable? Maybe because of pikuach nefesh purposes. Otherwise, you can't drink blood. Mayim or melach ha'osim imayim, salt which comes from water, salt water which you condense and make it into salt. Have a mashka. That's got a status of liquid. Amazingly. Therefore, if you take a tznoin, a radish, and you dip it in salt, have a dovash tipul b'mashka v'tzorech little yodov, if that salt comes from seawater. So long as the salt is moist or wet at the time, the mistam melach hu karish for ein shei mashkalem. Regular salt is dry and it's considered an oichel. Ein yodov noigos gezer shem yiga, because you worried you might come to touch it. Now, so what do we do in all these things? You've got a food item which is dipped in one of these 7 liquids. You do netilas time without a bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah. This is the important one. Sif koton chaf. Ki yesh mixas harishonim. The sovri, the hitzricha chom netilas time the dovish tipur mashka, elabim mehem sha'oichlim betaro. That these rules only apply in those days when they would eat with tahara, being very careful of the laws of tum and tahara. In any event, nowadays we're all tamei mason. If anyone's been to a levaya, been to a house where there's a mace, we're tamei mace. And therefore, we don't make a bracha on the tilas adayim. Shesofi brachas lahakel. V'hinei. B'magen Avram hevi b'shem alechem chamudus. The olam is not noig to wash at all on these things. V'yesh lahem amashe yismoichu. And therefore, if you don't wash for any of these items, you have what to rely on. Hainu al mixas harishonim hanal. Avol. Harbe achrein mechmir ma'oid b'dava. People are many achronim are very strict on this. That even nowadays, where we're not operating with tumah and tahara, still you have a food item which is dipped in one of these 7 liquids, water being the most prevalent nowadays. You need to wash your hands without a bracha. And the Gaon's opinion was exactly this. And the Gaon was very particular about this. The Gaon says you make a bracha even nowadays. Even though the olam are not noiheg to make a bracha nowadays, I'll call upon him ein lahak b'li netila. We should not be makel to eat without netilas adayim. But tzarich lezeh kol nedinik k'may pas, and all the halachas of netilas adayim, like for bread that we're used to apply. If you look at 31, he says, if you wash your hands without a bracha to have the apple that was dipped in water, whatever, das hagon Shlomo Zalman and Yashav, that even though you're not making a bracha of netilas adayim, you should not make there shouldn't be a gap between the washing and eating the fruit that you've dipped in liquids. What about the chatzitza? We worried about that. So again, he quotes from Shlomo Zalman that on Seder nights, when it comes to karpas, for those in some homes just the balabayas washes. In the homes where everyone washes, he says that women do not need to remove their rings. We're not worried about chatzitza for these types of netilas yadayim. Only for netilas yadayim, for bread or for other things. Because there are some opinions who say there's no chiyuv to wash in the first place. Just finishing off the Mishnah Berurah, last 3 lines. If you're having a small amount of these foods, nearly you don't have to worry at all about it. Even for bread. Okay, Chaf Aleph, we're worried even if a little bit is dipped in, that maybe the whole thing dips in. So there we have this halacha. Sometimes it's a chiddush for people, but if you've got a food item which is dipped in one of the 7 liquids, then the minhag is to be the halacha. It seems to be that you will noitel your daim, but to do so without a bracha.